Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So for those of you who I haven't met, I'm Grace Arnold. I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Commerce. Really glad to be here to moderate the discussion today. Just as a quick note, this is a panel discussion, so it'll be recorded, so it can be shared later. And then we'll leave time at the end for questions, and I'm hoping we have questions. So we're here to talk about something that's urgent and exciting. Federal clean energy initiative incentives that can help Minnesotans. They can help save money on energy bills, make homes more efficient, and invest in clean technologies. So earlier this summer, Congress passed a law that shortens the timeline to take advantage of these opportunities. And that means Minnesotans need to act quickly if they want to benefit. Whether it's a tax credit for purchasing an electric vehicle, installing solar panels, upgrading a heat pump, or even making energy efficient improvements like insulation and electric panel upgrades, these incentives can add up to thousands of dollars in savings for households. So our panel today is a group of experts who are going to share what these incentives mean, what steps Minnesotans should take, by when, and really try to make sure that Minnesotans don't miss out on the opportunities that's available. So first, I'd like to ask each of the panelists to introduce yourself, and then we'll dive into the questions. Diana, why don't you start?
Okay. My name is Diana McEwen. I am one of 3 co-directors for CERTS, the Clean Energy Resource Teams, a statewide partnership with a focus on helping communities identify, plan, and implement local community-based clean energy projects. Happy to be here.
All right, Jeff, that looks like it's your turn now.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner. My name is Jeff Ling. I'm the Vice President of External Affairs and Policy and the Chief Sustainability Officer for Xcel Energy. Thank you for the invitation. What timing as we come off of National Clean Energy Week, as we enter into Climate Week and Drive Electric Month. So thank you.
Great. And Pete, why don't you go ahead?
Thanks, Commissioner. I work for you. I'm Deputy Commissioner Pete Wyckoff. I run the Energy Division here at the Department of Commerce. We do both regulatory work and programs and policy, and we've been very involved in trying to make sure Minnesotans are aware of all of the things available, federal and state and utility-wise, to help reduce the cost of the clean energy upgrades that we'll be talking about today.
Great. So thank you all for being here, and let's get into it. We have a lot to cover. So I'd like each of you to share the most important incentive or deadline that Minnesotans should know about right now from your perspective. Pete, why don't you start, and then we'll go reverse introduction order.
Yeah, I think my list is going to be similar to the other 2, or at least to Diana, so I'll try not to steal her whole thunder. But there are 2 important deadlines coming up for folks who are looking to take advantage of federal tax incentives that were going to be around for a long time, but instead, because of recent legislation, are going away. The first one, which you better hurry if you're going to take advantage of, is on September 30th. The federal electric vehicle tax credit will expire. I've seen several new electric vehicles in the parking lot of my apartment building, wondering if it's people who are racing to get the credit, but you got to do that soon because you need to take delivery before September 30th if you're going to get a tax credit for an electric vehicle. I can say more about it, and I think we'll circle around, but I don't want to take away too much from Diana. But the other 2 things are end of the year tax credits that you should be thinking about, and they are in the residential space. And let's go to Diana, and then I can come back with some facts and figures if she doesn't give us everything we need to know.
All right, Diana.
Well, I mean, I think that you covered most of the pieces that we need. I think especially the end of the year, the car one's getting pretty close, and you have to make sure that there's income qualifications, there's price qualifications. They're having a registered dealer that can do the rebate. So there's a number of things, not on the electric vehicle side, that's not just about the date, but there's other qualifications. And I'll drop a link in the I can't drop a link in the chat. I can share information afterwards, but there are a number of different pieces that folks need to be thinking about. So I think you covered most of the really kind of timely ones.
Great. Jeff, anything you'd like to add?
Sure, yeah. Well, first off, Xcel Energy is here to make energy work better for our customers. There are a lot of options to choose from here. I think the other speakers have talked about the timelines. I think about 3 timeframes. And then I think one thing I'd like to stress in this conversation today is that even when the federal tax incentives expire, we have myriad programs available through our own utility programs and state programs. And really important to think about how they stack and how consumers can take advantage of both of them. So I think about 3 timeframes. Pete sort of led off with the EV credits, both used and new credits. Those expire at the end of September. The home efficiency credit, that 30% up to $3,200, that expires at the end of the year, along with the clean energy credit, 30% for things like rooftop solar, for battery storage, for geothermal heat pumps. So that's a second wave. And then the third one that I'm thinking about, and it's not too early for Minnesotans to be thinking about, is what happens at June 30th of next year with the new energy efficiency home credit. That's the $5,000 credit, and the alternative fueling or recharging credit for charging. And that's up to 30%. So kind of 3 waves. And I think that's important to think that way. I can't give tax advice, and everybody should consult a tax professional, of course, but think about those in those 3 timeframes. But then we've got some 20 other programs that are available in market today, many of which can be stacked on top of these incentive programs that I hope we can talk about, because that's really the long-term opportunity here.
Great. Pete, I think you had one more thing you wanted to add before we move on to the next question.
Jeff added some things, but maybe I'll just reinforce. The second deadline, the first deadline, September 30th, EV credits. Jeff gave the other 2 deadlines. The ones we are talking about, just to flesh it out a little bit, that will expire at the end of the year, are for things that are home improvements. This can be insulation, energy efficient windows, home weatherization, also electric panel upgrades, things like heat pumps. And as Jeff said, if you're putting solar on your roof or home-sized geothermal in your yard, those credits are all the ones that are home credits that expired in the end of the year. I don't have 2024 data, but these credits have been popular. From the first year they were available in 2023, about 70,000 Minnesota homes used these credits. I imagine it got bigger in 2024, and hopefully we'll have a really good 2025 as the last year that these credits are available.
All right. Thanks, Pete. I'll say I took advantage of the tax credits for a heat pump last year. So that was, I count myself among one of those. Let's move to the next topic. So for families that are thinking about improving their home, so there are a lot of things you could do. You can have insulation, you can have a heat pump, or even solar panels. What's the first step that they should take to know what qualifies and then what makes sense for them? Diana, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, the first step in this is getting a home energy assessment, really kind of getting an understanding of the whole picture of your house, and get a handle on how much energy you're using and all the different options, whether it's energy efficiency, using heat pumps, all of the HVAC, et cetera, to make sure that you get that understanding from the assessment. And then you can start taking steps from there. The important thing is that it's not going to, just save money on taxes, which is part of it because these are tax credits, but it reduces your monthly bill and utility for years to come. So, really can start with that. And I'll say that we have on our website a new tool that's really helpful called the Pay for Your Projects. And you can type in what you're trying to do and it'll populate the different incentives, including utility incentives, rebates, et cetera, that are available. And so we're excited to launch that just recently and share it with folks so they can figure out what works for them.
Great. Jeff?
So I totally agree that a home energy audit is the place to start. That is, if you're not considering purchasing an EV. I think there's 8 days left to maximize the federal tax credit to do so. But if you're thinking more comprehensively, and if you're an Xcel Energy customer, if you go to xcelenergy.com, click on residential, click on Home Energy Squad, we offer this. There's a Home Energy Squad energy audit program. To listeners here, I have a discount code, fall50, for September and Energy 50 for October, you can get 50% off on the cost of that audit. It ranges, I think, between $50 and $100, depending upon, your location and the comprehensiveness of the audit. But you get a report, and that's the really important thing that I think Diane is talking about. You get options for a plan, right? What might be a fit for you, and then from there to take a look at incentive programs from utilities, from the state, from federal tax credits. So I think that's absolutely the place to start if you have the time to do so.
Pete, anything you'd like to add there?
No, I think they're given great advice. If you're not an Excel customer, figure out who your utility is, either gas or electric. Often gas is where people start. There are other third-party independent auditors, but it's often going to be your best deal to go through your utility. I will say that having done this on multiple homes I've owned through the years, insulation's probably going to be what's going to come back and say, if you don't have good insulation, that's where you start. That's the quickest payoff. But also things like how you heat your home, the big ticket items. Those may not be sexy. You don't show them off at dinner parties, but they will really save you a lot of money.
Great. Thanks,
You might
Pete.
not show them off at dinner parties, but other people
Wow.
might. Like Grace can host a dinner party and show off her heat pump.
It is a significant improvement on our previous setup for a variety of reasons. All right, so we've talked about EVs just a little bit here, and we've had some nods to that. Pete, why don't you start and tell us, EV credits are going to expire September 30th of this year, so that's 8 days from now. So what should I know if I'm considering buying a new or a used electric vehicle?
So one of the things is, what does it mean to have purchased by September 30th? We at the state have been working on a contract with Deloitte, and the advice we're getting is that if you have the car and you pay for it and it's all done, that's great. What you need is at least a significant non-refundable down payment and a written binding contract. And that should be enough, even if you have not completed other aspects of the purchase or taken control of the vehicle. So I think as we get down to the last week, people are asking, what does it mean to have purchased for tax purposes? I think that is what we are hearing from people who are tax experts. Will be sufficient.
Jeff or Diana, anything you want to add?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe just a couple of reasons to do so, and then other things that you might consider. First, they're really fun to drive, and super low maintenance too. So if you think about, a total household budget, this can be a real great way to manage your energy costs. So it's about $1 a gallon equivalent, a little bit less on the Xcel Energy system to charge today. And the emissions are about 2/3 less in internal combustion engine cars. So that's, two big reasons in the yes column for EV. If you're thinking about buying one, ev.xcelenergy.com. I was just on that website again this morning, refreshing my memory. There is a place where you can search for qualified dealers. You can look at the vehicle fleet options, both new and used, as well as incentive info. And we've got, an EV Accelerator at Home program that makes available rebates for charging. So a $1,200 rebate for the wiring, and up to $1,500 for an electric panel upgrade. So those are things that, if you end up buying an electric vehicle, charging typically happens at home. Those are incentives that are available at home. And then really, really importantly, is thinking about what electric rate you're on. So that EV Accelerate at Home program is really a program where Xcel Energy comes out and will install a level 2 charger. Those are a little bit faster. They run on 240 volts. And then manage your charging off peak. So that's saving costs on the grid. And we're in turn reflecting those costs in the rate. So think about that too. What level of investment might you need to make in your own home, and what's available outside of the federal tax credits for home charging?
The only other thing that one last thing that I'll add is that there are foreign entities of concern content restrictions for the vehicles. Again, there's a number of different sites you can go to, including ours, to get that information so that it's really clear when you're purchasing it.
And in addition to Jeff's, they're very fun to drive. I will say they're also very quiet, which is helpful as the mom of two kids, one of whom barely whispers most of the time. All right, so let's talk about accessibility. So how are we going to make sure that these incentives are reaching everyday Minnesotans? Can they reach renters? How about low-income households? What if you live in a rural community? What are available to you? Diana, why don't you kick us off on this one?
Yeah, I appreciate this. We are working with all of the audiences that you mentioned. We are a statewide entity. We have staff all across the state that are really trying to communicate about these incentives and the deadlines. We work with other partners, related to renters, low income. We're working on a number of different projects and programs and partners that are helping get the word out. And so we're really proud of, really trying to get it out all across the state and to the audiences that really need to hear it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So a few things I'd add here. For income qualified programs, we have a few partners at Xcel Energy. It's Energy Sense, CENTS Coalition in the Twin Cities area. And then if you live outside of the metro area, Sustainable Resource Center is our partner for income qualified programs. So they each have their own websites, and I would say contact them depending upon where you live. There are also a number of other programs specifically available. If you're income qualified, you might be eligible to receive a free home energy squad visit. I mentioned those. We have a low usage affordability credit. So if you're income qualified and your usage is low enough, you might be eligible for a 35% bill credit. We have a power on and gas affordability program. These are socialized programs that help to discount electric and gas bills and have a bill forgiveness program component to them, as well as past due balances. And then for renters, and you mentioned this, Commissioner, and there can be a renter landlord sort of barrier there. We specifically have a multifamily building efficiency program designed to address that situation. But our program literature is all available in Spanish, in Somali, and Hmong. We have a free mobile app. If I were to encourage you to do one thing, it was just to go to xcelenergy.com, click on residential, because there's a wealth of information that's there, not just on the tax credits, which many of which are expiring as we talked about, but 20 other programs that are not going away on those timelines, that are very much going to be managed long term. So we are very much, in addition to things like this today, trying to reach many different audiences.
Great, thanks. Pete, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just say we work with the partners that are on the call with us here. We work with the utilities, and we work with the utilities through our regulatory side, actually, with something called the EcoSIP program, which helps sort of dictate the nature of the utility rebates that are available. But CERTS is a partner that we work with on getting the word out. We were just at the state fair. CERTS was there every day with the Department of Commerce Energy Division, telling Minnesotans about what they need to know about what's available to them in the personal sort of home energy sector. We get out and do road shows. I think it was this weekend we had someone out in Alexandria at one of their eco events. So we get the word out. Like everybody else, our web pages are also a good place to go for information.
Great. Well, this has been a ton of really great information. I'm wondering if we can do a couple of things so we can have a little bit of time for if there are any questions. So if you can maybe each do a round robin and give like a couple of what are common mistakes or misconceptions? You guys have gone through a lot of information. I'm sure it could feel a little overwhelming. What are mistakes or misconceptions? And then what's one piece of advice that you really want folks who are interested in any of these programs to know, and maybe just where should they begin? Diana, why don't you start us out?
Sure. I think a lot of people aren't sure, don't think that they will qualify. And I would encourage people to, go in and look at it, because if you qualify for some of these income qualified programs, the costs are lower and the incentives are higher. And so that's a good thing. And I think people feel like this tax credit thing is really hard to understand, they're not sure. And there's a bunch of different resources from all three entities to help people with that, and people they can call. I mean, we've got our staff numbers and our email. Folks can reach out to us and we will get answers to them if they need that. We also have our home energy guide that I didn't mention that has in English, Spanish, Russian, Hmong, and Somali. And so we have all of that, and it includes energy assistance information and everything in there. So yeah, I think that people need help. Kind of, they're not sure about this tax credit thing, and so sometimes need help with that.
Pete, what else would you say?
Yeah, I would just give the warning that not every if you're getting if you're getting a heat pump, if you're getting an upgrade in one of your pieces of fundamental pieces of home equipment, not every model is going to qualify for these tax credits. So you need to work with a contractor who's on top of that, or do the research yourself. You don't want to say, hey, I got a heat pump, where's my tax credit? And you didn't get a heat pump that had met the efficiency requirements for the tax credit. So to avoid that, work with a good contractor, talk to your utility, talk to CERTs, talk to everybody else. Just make sure you know what you are getting and that it qualifies.
Jeff, what would you say?
Well, I have nothing to disagree with here. I think this is great advice. I would say first, find the right contractor. And we have a trade partner registered contract list on our website. And we recommend getting 3 bids. And those contractors are going to help you, navigate the sorts of things that Pete just talked about. I think Diana was mentioning this, some misconceptions about whether, difficulty in the process, but as long as you have the right equipment and you have an invoice, you're pretty well documented in terms of your ability to claim the credit. And then the third thing is, don't stop at the credits. Remember that you can stack these rebates. You can add the rebates on top, utility rebates as well. So really think about this comprehensively. So, and just in terms of what to do first, take ownership. Take ownership. Start with that home energy audit. If you're an Xcel Energy customer, Home Energy Squad is a great place to start. ev.xcelenergy.com is a great place to start if you're thinking about an EV, and not just the vehicle, but the charging and the rate design as well. So it's all sort of there at your fingertips to invest your time and energy in.
Great. Well, thank you all. You've shared a ton of expertise and really helped to go through quite a bit of information that I think can feel really complicated and in a really accessible way. I think, just to sort of sum up what we've heard today, Minnesotans have a limited window to take advantage of the clean energy incentives, and those incentives can save households thousands of dollars and help move to a clean energy future. So I'll put a plug in for the Department of Commerce website, which is mn.gov/commerce/energy. A lot of what we've talked about here and what Pete has talked about can be found there. The CERT's website and Xcel are also good resources. So, if you can take away one thing from today, I would say don't wait, start the process now, and make sure that you don't miss out. So with that, we can take any questions that folks might have.
I've got a question. This is Kirsty Marone from Minnesota Public Radio.
Yeah, of course, Kirsty, go ahead.
Actually, I've got one for Pete and one for Jeff. I guess I'll start with you, Pete. I'm just wondering, has the department done any sort of analysis or forecasting or predicting on what sort of impact the end of the tax credits might have on the number of Minnesotans taking advantage of some of these programs? I mean, I guess I'm wondering. You said you didn't have the latest numbers for people who have qualified, but have you tried to predict what impact this might have going forward?
So I've seen national modeling predictions. We don't have any specific modeling to Minnesota. And when I said 70,000 people used the tax credit in Minnesota in 2023. The reason it's not more recent is because the IRS itself is the source of the data, and they take a long time to get us those data. There's a lot of sort of dire. There will be huge drop-offs in EV uptake. There will be huge drop-off, maybe, hopefully less in sort of these home improvements. We shall see. I'm optimistic that the drop off won't be as big, but we'll see. The thing we haven't talked about today, which is another webinar, and maybe someone else from Xcel would be here, is what this does to the utilities, because the utility scale tax credits are also phasing out. And from a Minnesotan's pocketbook point of view, that will probably actually in the long run be a much bigger and more negative change in terms of how much of the energy costs that we have in Minnesota are picked up by the federal tax system versus by people paying their energy bills.
Okay, thank you for that. And Jeff, I guess I'm just wondering if somebody right now was going to try to get a residential home, rooftop solar project done by the end of the year. I know we've had some issues in the past with getting connected to the grid in Xcel territory. Is that still possible with this deadline, or are we still seeing a delay there?
Good question. So there are a number of different renewable programs available. Let me just start with that. So Solar Rewards is one of them, as well as Solar Rewards Community. As you mentioned, those are projects on homes and businesses. But don't forget about Renewable Connect Flex and Renewable Connect Legacy. Those are projects that allow customers on a subscription basis to invest up to 100% renewable in projects that are based here in Minnesota, solar and wind projects. And so we are actively working to clear the queue for Solar Rewards Connect customers. And I think we've made great headway in that regard. We're very mindful of the deadlines that our customers are experiencing. And so it's an interesting question you're asking. I don't have the specific answer on whether a customer needs to be energized to claim the credit. And so I'd like to follow up with you and get the specific answer on that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You can either jump in or you can do the little hand raise thing if you want. All right, I don't see any. So thank you all so much for being here. Feel free to follow up with Nancy if you have any additional questions, or at the panelists. We're happy to get you any answers and appreciate having this very timely discussion. Thanks to Diana and Jeff and Pete for sharing all of their wisdom and advice. Have a great day, everybody.